What's this?
Oh, this is Death Note.
That story about where you write somebody's name and you die?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Death Note, gotta have one.
Hey, this is V.
And it's Tay!
And we are here to talk about the Death Note.
One shot. All in my ear. I hear you talking dirty. Oh, wrong song?
Wrong song. So Death Note's creators released this new one-shot comic book following what happened after the Death Note storyline. For those who don't know what the Death Note story is about, Death Note is a really, really widely popular anime. It's about...
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
Now, if y'all don't know what happened in the original, we highly recommend y'all go look it up on Netflix, because it's on Netflix. But if you don't want to look it up on Netflix, you can always get the amazing magazines. And if you don't want to look it up on Netflix, you can just go on Amazon.com and buy the whole collection yourself.
Ooh.
So, tell us about it.
Alright, so Death Note is a story that follows the events of Light Yagami, who finds this magical book that was dropped from the Shinigami realm, which is a fictitious realm where spirits and creatures come from. So anyways, they dropped this notebook.
Where they hanging out with nothing to do, just watching us.
Pretty much. So they dropped this
Thirsty.
book down, and then this teen named Light Yagami, he grabs the book.
He was a sweet lad.
He grabs the book, and he's a super genius, super intelligent, and he started writing names in a notebook. And what happens when you write the name in the notebook is you die of a heart attack. That's just the gist of the story.
Or really whatever you want.
Yeah, you can write down ways to die, and then a person will eventually die however you've written it in a notebook, if it's logical. So Death Note follows the story of that, and then it's an investigation where the protagonist named L,
I am L.
he goes against Light Yagami and tries to solve the mystery of who has a Death Note and everything like that. And it becomes like a cat and mouse kind of story where they're trying to chase down and resolve the mystery of the killer.
Who the killer? So where we at now, though? You said this is a one-shot? Let's get to the one-shot.
So this one-shot takes place in the same world as the Death Note, but it happens in the future, 9 years later, after Light Yagami dies. Anyways, this new guy, he has the book now and everything like that, and the story kind of changes dramatically from what it was originally in the original Death Note, whereas this guy doesn't want to use the Death Note for actual murders. He actually even refuses to kill people with the Death Note. However, he puts the Death Note on auction and see what country and whoever is going to bid the highest to get control of the Death Note.
Because it's very interesting that in the manga, the one-shot, it's making it seem like a lot of people actually want Kira to come back.
Back rolls.
Because in the original Death Note, Light was killing people, but he originally started with a good purpose. It didn't end up that way in the end, but it originally started with him having a good purpose.
This is the first time in my life that I've been provoked to hit a woman.
Now, in the new one-shot, people are saying that they want Kira to come back so old people don't have to suffer dying. There are multiple reasons, but a lot of people actually want Kira to come back.
But she insulted the people in the house. I ain't going nowhere this time.
Yeah, so some people did want Kira to come back, and Kira has become kind of like a historic figure in this time period of the Death Note world. He's in like history books and stuff like that, and they do paint him as a villain and everything like that. So this story actually follows what happens after the events of Death Note. So, how do you feel about the story?
I thought it was an interesting one. My favorite aspect that I liked was the fact that it paints a narrative that in the original anime, a lot of people thought Light was evil, but it's just interesting that in this version, a lot of people actually want him back. In the original anime, a lot of people wouldn't do anything bad at all because they felt like if they did anything bad, Kara would know. Kara, aka Light. Kara is a nickname he used, an alias, so no one knew who he was. He didn't come up with the name, other people came up with it for him. I just like that aspect of it, that it changed it around, because sometimes I really like, that's why I like Death Note to begin with, because it shows like, does what you're doing justify the means? I like, does it end justify the means? Because yeah, a lot of times, sometimes it might not look good what you're doing.
Come back to what I want. You come back.
But if there's more of a purpose behind it, it could change the way you look. It's almost like when Jesse Smollett, you know, did that fake hate crime. It's like, does his means did justify the end?
I'm not gonna go out and get a tuna sandwich at a salad to meet somebody.
No, they did not. Gotcha.
Yeah, so obviously I'm a huge fan of the original Death Note story, and I'm actually a huge fan of this one shot. I'll start with the beginning. I like how this new character is using it is using it in kind of an altruistic way versus Light, who is like killing people.
For all of us who don't know that word, can you please help us with it?
Yeah, so anyways, he's kind of using it.
No, I actually don't know that word.
He's kind of like, at first we're not sure why he's putting, so he ends up, at first we're not actually sure why he's putting a Death Note up for auction. It's actually throw Ryuk for a loop, because Ryuk is like, why are you putting a Death Note up for auction? Most geniuses want to use it for world domination and everything like that, but he actually puts it up for auction.
And Ryuk is a Shinigami.
And Ryuk is a Shinigami. So, it's actually also very interesting because...
What is a Shinigami? A Shinigami is a god who watches over humans. They can't really die, so they can die, but they don't, because when they write your name in the Death Note, they take your years you have left. That's what a Shinigami is. Yeah,
so I really liked how he maneuvered the Death Note. I also like how he doesn't really have an antagonist going against him. Nair and the rest of the SPK members, they really are not. They're not really. Nair don't seem like he's passionate about it, and he actually also mentions he's not passionate about it. He really don't care. Because he kind of wants to actually sit there and see how this entire thing plays out.
He said the world once. He ain't gonna do it again.
Absolutely. So I really like that part of the story. I thought the story was clever, and I also like how I also kind of like the way they actually incorporate Donald Trump as like the final person who actually ends up buying a Death Note.
Respect for women. I cherish women.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs.
And how the rules kind of changes once he gets there.
Okay, so I ain't gonna lie. I didn't get to the end, girl. I didn't get to the end. Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Is in the original Death Note. I mean, is in the new Death Note?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, see, girl, I didn't finish my reading. See, that was my issue in school. I didn't like to read. Keep going.
Oh, so yeah, so I like the ending, how at the end of it, so pretty much the Death Note ended up being put on auction,
and good old Donald wasn't doing his job as a president, so he was just online looking for the Death Note.
Donald Trump has small hands. Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong?
Yeah, well, no. So this is again in history. This is in the history books and everything like that. So everybody knows the whole story of how Light Yagami used the Death Note, killed millions of people, and changed the world. Now the world is like, now still to this day is less crime and everything like that. So the thing about it is he put the Death Note on there to bid, and he used Twitter. He like used hashtags on Twitter, like hashtag if you want to buy a Death Note. So the bid just kept getting bigger and bigger. It was 1,000 people were bidding. I want the Death Note, I want the Death Note. Then it got to the millions. Then it got to the 100 millions. Next thing you know, the biggest governments in the world, like the American government, the Chinese government, like the governments around the world, started bidding back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Next thing you know, it ends up being like $quadrillion. And guess who buys it?
Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong?
Ends up being Donald J. Trump. He buys a Death Note
Now did,
for
he buy it, now did he buy it with American tax dollars? That's the question.
Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
Oh, probably. So anyways, Donald J. Trump ends up buying a Death Note and everything like that. So what ends up happening is the owner of the Death Note, he releases the Death Note to Ryuk, and Ryuk gives the Death Note to Donald Trump. But the twist is, Ryuk get called back to the Shinigami realm because now the rules change, and whoever purchased the Death Note will die. So Ryuk actually tells Donald Trump, he's like,
Do you want ownership of this Death Note?
Donald Trump's like, hell no, I don't want ownership of this goddamn Death Note. If I take ownership of this Death Note, I'm gonna die. So he doesn't take ownership of the Death Note. And the Ryuk said, if you don't take ownership of this Death Note, then instead, I'm gonna write a human name in this Death Note, and they're gonna die. So he ends up killing the original person who actually set this whole thing up.
Go ahead, Donald.
No, I'm a gentleman, Hillary. Go ahead.
Once the guy receives the money, he actually divides the money up to everybody in Japan who has access to a certain bank.
More money, I want your money.
And so the Japan economy is like booming. Everybody is millionaires. You think about
So you're telling me Donald Trump cared about another country's economy?
No, what I'm saying is Donald Trump gave the money in order to get the Death
sound
Note.
like Donald Trump.
In order to get the Death Note, because the Death Note is the most powerful weapon in history, but ends up not taking the Death Note and ends up killing the main character. So overall, I think the story was good. I like the direction of the art and everything like that. And yeah.
Yeah, it sounded so freaking fat. I didn't finish the video. I didn't finish reading it. But if I knew Donald Trump was part of it, I would have. So what do you recommend? Do you recommend this as a must-read for Death Note fans?
I do recommend it as a must-read. I think I would give it a solid 10 out of 10, actually. I think that it's a great one-shot. A lot of people are saying that things happen quickly and that it wasn't really that well fleshed out and stuff like that. But I do think that...
So they probably wouldn't be confused on your review.
Well, I do think that with a one-shot, you can because it's so short, you don't have the time to really create like a very intricate plot. But for what it was really, really great. The story flowed really well, and it keeps you in the twists and turns that happened with the original Death Note. And then they also gave Nair, aka L Prodigy person, a new hairstyle. He got like these long curly tresses. Yeah. So ultimately, I would give it a 10 out of 10. I think it was great, and I think everybody should watch it.
You're giving it a 10 out of 10?
Yeah, I'll give it a 10 out of 10.
Oh, right. Just because I gave Candyman a 10 out of 10, now he wants to give this a 10 out of 10. Right.
What did you give it from where you left off? Because you didn't watch the whole thing.
I would have gave it, nothing gets a 10 out of 10 besides Candyman trailer. I would have gave it maybe like a 7, like if my boots weren't knocked off, or I would have finished it. Yeah, so he recommends going to read it. I recommend going to read it too. If you have nothing else to do and you like Death Note, absolutely, go ahead and read it. Stay tuned for our channel. We're going to have more anime, more stuff like this. Hopefully you like it.
Yeah.
This is T.
And this is V.
And I'm the kitchen.
Bye.
No way! Somebody